Good morning. Let's go ahead and begin chapter 6 in our heritage studies. Now, I'm having some trouble with my camera, with my computer camera, and so I don't know if you're going to see me until I can get a new camera because it's messing up. So I need to buy me a new one. I just haven't done it yet. But really and truthfully, you don't need to see me as long as you can hear me and see on the screen. So we're going to go ahead and begin chapter 6. Now, what we're going to be doing, we're going to take chapter 6 a little bit slower than we've taken some of the other chapters. And so some of the lessons, when I was looking through it, seemed a little bit long. So, for instance, today's lesson, the opening lesson, it was a whole lot of things all in one. So I've decided to split today's lesson. So rather than having 4 or 5 pages to read, plus introducing the new chapter, plus having 2 worksheets to do, I decided that we would do it just a little bit differently. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to introduce the chapter so that you'll be aware of what this chapter is going to be about. And then we're going to fill out a map. And then we're going to read a couple of pages, okay? And then that's all we're going to do. And you may have an assignment as well. I haven't quite decided yet. But, okay, so if you'll look in your book, it's the very beginning of chapter 6. It's called America Expands. Now, the people that came to America early on, those early colonists, they had values and morals and thoughts that should been an example to all the countries of the world. But some Americans wanted the nation to expand. Others didn't. They just kind of wanted to be, here in their own way. And they didn't want to see America controlling anything else. Some people thought even the United States should control other countries. But some thought America should be spreading freedom and independence to those countries and just not owning them but letting them do their own thing. So this lesson is going to be talking about how America has spread from sea to shining sea. In other words, we now are an entire country. Okay, we've spread from here to here. We have our states, most of our intercontinental states. But this chapter is going to be about how America reached out and spread across the world. So we're going to kind of spread our focus a little bit. We're going to be talking about trade and war. So look at page 135 up at the top. There's a timeline. And this timeline takes us from about 1895 through what's called the turn of the century. Okay, the turn of the century is literally what it means. It's the turn of a new century. A century is 100 years. So the turn of the century is when it goes from one century to a new century. So we're going from the century of the 1800s and we're turning into the 1900s. So this is going to take us, it covers about 10-year span from 1895 to about 1905. So let's look and see what happens during this time. So in 1896, what happened in Alaska? They discovered gold. And then in 1897, a man named William McKinley became president of the United States. And then looky there, in 1898, we had a war, the Spanish-American War. And then we have 1900 all the way up to 1904, where the United States took over the building of the Panama Canal, which I think we had talked about that in the last chapter a little bit. So let us then look at page 135 where it says spreading across the world. Now, from the earliest days, Americans viewed their culture as something special. They wanted to see their culture spread across the world. An early American colonist, John Winthrop, wanted the Massachusetts Bay Colony to be an example to the world. He wanted Boston to be a city set on a hill. Many Americans believed in the idea of manifest destiny. They thought their country should spread from one ocean to another. Some Americans worked to increase the United States' influence in other countries. Some people don't think that American thoughts and ideas should spread. So what about you? Do you think that other countries should learn to be like America? In a way, I think they should. And in a way, I think they should be on their own to be how they want to be. But then I'll look at what America was founded upon, and it was founded upon Christian principles. You'll have people that tell you that it was not, but in actuality, it was founded on Christian principles, because that's part of the whole reason why the people came over. But that's another lesson for another day at another time. What we're going to do first is I'd like for you to leave your book open and get your work text out. We're going to kind of do this in a different way. Turn in your work text to page 60. Okay, on page 60, you're going to see a map. And the map of this continent that you see on the screen as well, this whole continent from here all the way to here, all of this is the continent of North America. Think about the continent as being a house, a great big house. And then each one of these sections is a room in the house. Okay? And each one of those rooms is a separate country. Just like you have one big house that lots of people live in, but within that house, you have a bedroom that belongs to someone. You have a kitchen that you cook in and eat in. You have a living room or a den. You have a bathroom. You might have a garage. So all of these rooms are under the same roof, but they serve completely different purposes. And in some cases, they belong to different people. Okay? So that's what I want you to think of. The whole continent would be like a house. The countries that are in that continent are considered sort of like bedrooms or rooms in that house. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to label the oceans and the countries that are on this map. Now this map on the screen is not exactly the same map that's in your book, but it's very similar to it. So if you'll notice down at the very bottom of your map, there's a key on the left-hand corner, and it gives the colors. Actually, I have the teacher book, so I don't know if it even gives the colors or not. I think it does. So there's 3 different colors, and so it wants us to label what country those colors symbolize. So that first color is a greenish color. Okay, if you'll look at your map right up here, this is kind of the same color. So on your map, what country is that green country? It's Canada. So on your map, right down here, you've got your key and you've got that color. So on that line, you'll write Canada. And that shows us that the green, all the green color on your map belongs to Canada. Okay? Now, in the center here, we have another room, you might want to say, and it's the United States. So on your key, make sure and label the color that belongs to this, the United States. Now the United States is its own separate country. Okay, and then the last color, I think on your map it shows purple. This map is a different color. But on your map, you'll label that color as Mexico. Okay, so now Canada, the United States, and Mexico are 3 separate countries on the same continent. Okay, remember, think about the continent as being a big house. And each one of those countries would represent a different room in the house. They stand for something different. They're used for different things. They look different. And in some cases, they belong to different people. And that's the case with these 3 rooms or these 3 countries here. Okay, the continent is the house. The countries are the rooms. Does that make it a little easier to remember? Okay, the other things that we're going to label on this map are, we're going to label 3 oceans. Okay, so the ocean way up here at the tippy top of the world, right near the North Pole, actually it's in the North Pole, it's part of the North Pole, is the Arctic Ocean. So if you'll label that on your map, it's at the very top. There's a line, it says ocean, and on that line you'll put Arctic. Don't forget that C right there, so because you actually pronounce it Arctic. Arctic. Okay, and then this ocean over here on the western side of the United States, out near California, Oregon, and Washington, is the Pacific Ocean. And the ocean to the east is the Atlantic Ocean. So you'll go ahead and label those oceans. All right, so we've labeled everything in there. Now the other page that we're going to do, but we're not going to do it today, is going to be page 59. So you'll go back a page. So you don't have to do that today. You can actually close your book. I don't even need to see a picture of the map. I just wanted to make sure that you got that labeled. Now, let's go ahead and look in our reader book on page 136. Now, we're going to go ahead and read, but I'm going to bring up, this is a picture that I wanted to bring up. This is not actually the picture. Here it is. There it is. It's bigger. There's just a picture for you to see, to look at. And then it's this man right here is who we would call Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Night at the Museum. You may have seen that. It's a funny show. Well, the man that's in there that rides the horse is Teddy Roosevelt. He's portraying Teddy Roosevelt. Well, this is a picture portraying Teddy Roosevelt. And look what this guy over here is carrying, our flag. It's who we call the cavalry. Now this is some kind of a part of a battle in a war, which we'll be talking about it, but I just wanted to bring this picture up just for you to look at while we were reading over this. All right, let's look at page 136. Now at the bottom of page 136, you're going to see a map of the United States. Now it doesn't show all the different states as they are today, because it's showing you where and when and how we gained these lands. Okay, so if you'll look at that map, you'll see different years and the names of little, areas. Like over on the far left side in that green, it says surrendered by the Mexicans in 1848. And then there's a little light green one down there by Mexico. It says that was the Gadsden Purchase in 1883. Texas, see how all that reaches up? It even reaches up into Colorado. That was Texas in 1845. And then you see the yellow is the Louisiana Purchase. And then up at the top of the Louisiana Purchase, there's some land that was surrendered by the British in 1818. And then the Revolutionary War gained some stuff in 1783. And then parts of Louisiana and Florida and Mississippi were surrendered by the Spanish in 1819. And then you see up in the far right side, the original 13 colonies that we had. It's just kind of an overview of how, when, and where we gained the land that we have today. So let's look at page 136. It says the United States and the world after the Civil War. So for many years, America had much room to grow. First, the nation spread into the Louisiana Territory. Then the Oregon Territory, Texas, and the Southwest all became part of the United States. After 1853, the United States stopped expanding in North America. During the Civil War, the United States and the Confederate States did not try to expand. They were too busy fighting each other. Neither side seemed interested in claiming new lands. After the Civil War, the United States began looking for more territory. The country stretched from sea to sea, yet some Americans thought it should grow more. So, by after the Civil War, the United States was basically as we know it today, for the most part. Now, there were a lot of states, especially out west, that had not become states yet. We owned them as territories, but they were not yet states. Let's look on page 137. We're going to talk a little bit about Alaska. There was a man who believed America should grow more. His name was William Seward. Now, he was a politician, and he held lots of political positions during his whole life. He actually was governor of New York. He was a United States senator. He was a Secretary of State under Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. And he made efforts to expand U.S. territory. He was the one who worked out a deal with Russia to purchase Alaska in 1867. So let's read up here at the very top of page 137. Now, one man who believed America should grow more was William Seward. President Lincoln had made him Secretary of State. While Andrew Johnson was president, Seward bought Alaska, a very cold land in the northwestern tip of North America. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring back up our map. I know you have one probably in front of you. Let me see here if I can bring our map. Here it is. Now if you'll notice, here is what we call the continental United States, okay? See where Alaska's way up here? Now if I were to expand my map, this land right here goes into Asia and it's actually Russia. So do you see how Russia would have owned Alaska? So William Seward was the man who worked out buying Alaska from Russia to belong to the United States. Now he didn't buy it as a state, he just bought it as a territory. Now, Alaska was far from where most Americans lived. Some people joked and called it Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox. But Seward was wiser than people thought. He had bought the land from Russia. By purchasing Alaska, he kept Russia from controlling land in North America. See, because it's in North America. All of this is part of North America. He did not think that the Russians should own any part of this. I think that was pretty wise, don't you? He also gained rich fishing grounds, and later Americans would discover gold in Alaska. I'll tell you a little bit more about Alaska in just a second. Now let's talk about another area that was gained for America. Now I'm still on page 137 and I'm towards the bottom. I'm on the paragraph that starts Some Americans. I'd like for you to read with me. Some Americans thought the Caribbean islands should be part of the United States. When Ulysses S. Grant was president, he asked the Senate to make a treaty with the people of Santo Domingo. Now it's the Dominican Republic, which is right here on your map. The treaty would add this island to the United States. Grant wanted to put a U.S. naval base in Santo Domingo. He wanted the island to be a place for Black Americans to escape harsh treatment in the South. One powerful Republican senator spoke out for Black Americans. He thought the United States should do more to protect them. It should not encourage them to move away. So right down here is the Caribbean Sea, and these islands are kind of considered the Caribbean islands. Of course, they have different names. Here's Cuba, and you've got the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Haiti, and Jamaica, and all these little islands right down here. Now, let us talk about Alaska. I want to tell you a little bit more about Alaska. Now, it was purchased in 1867 from Russia by William Seward. He paid $7.2 million in gold coins. Now, if you figure that out per acre, that was 2 cents per acre. Pretty cheap, isn't it? Alaska, of course, is not connected to the main United States. It was called a distant land. It was bought for America's benefit. It was bought so that Russia would not own anything where, near America, where America was. Now, no one recognized that the purchase of Alaska was the very beginning of American imperialism, which we'll talk about tomorrow, beyond its natural borders. As it turned out, Alaska did prove to be very beneficial. There was a gold rush in Alaska in 1897. It brought lots and lots of miners to that area around the Yukon River, which I think is right in this area right here. It boosted the economy here in the United States, and later on it gave lots of resources to America. And fishing became, as you can see right up in here, it's surrounded by water, isn't it? So fishing became important to Alaska's economy. Salmon fishing produced a lot more wealth even than the gold ever did. Now, later on, Alaska became very important for the natural defense of America, and you'll find that out later on as we study some more things that go on in the 1900s. Now, Alaska did not become a state belonging to you. It was just a territory, but it became a state in 1959. It was the 49th state to be added. It's pretty interesting. All right. Now, I don't think I'm going to give you your assignment that I thought I was going to give you. I was just really going to have you read the rest of the pages, but I think I'd rather do that with you tomorrow so that we can kind of discuss it and look over some things on our own, okay? So that will conclude your lesson for the day.